Hello and welcome to New Filmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with Movie Maker magazine. My name is Danny DeLillo. We're here at the South Park Center and delighted to join with Mel with her movie, Move In. Let's take a look at the clip.
Now my left arm. There you go. Sick.
Mel, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the New Filmmakers LA family. Thank you so much. Yeah, welcome. How are you feeling? It was so great to be film with us last night.
Yeah, I'm feeling so great. I mean, the New Filmmakers family has been so supportive, and it's just been a lovely week of community and filmmaking, so I'm really grateful to be here.
Well, thank you for being here and thank you for being part of us now. And for those that haven't seen Move In, tell us a brief synopsis.
So Move In is a coming-of-age short film. It's a drama about a young teenage contemporary dancer who's struggling with a conflict at her studio, specifically with one of her dance teachers. And she struggles to feel like she has any sense of safety anywhere she goes. And then a new girl comes to the studio and she provides her a sense of community and that feeling of safety that she was searching for. So the film is really about sisterhood, community, and healing from any traumas, but doing it together.
I felt like when you seen this film, especially on the big screen, there was just so many dynamics that I had recognized from just those that I've known in the dance industry. Such an tough, competitive industry, but from the perspective of like young girls, young women, even another level.
Yeah.
And where did for you, obviously your background, you're a dancer, so where did the kind of storyline, the experience where you're like, I have to turn this particular idea into a film? Where did it start?
Yeah, as you said, I grew up as a dancer, and I actually shot this film in my studio that I grew up at in Toronto, which was like,
was that special?
Oh my God, all kinds of full circles. And yeah, working with kids who are also growing up at that studio now, who are being trained by my teacher. So it was such a beautiful experience. But yeah, being in the dance industry, like you said, is tough. We have such a beautiful craft where we get to express ourselves through our bodies, but that it sometimes makes it difficult for us to be able to communicate something necessary with our voice or to be able to stand up for ourselves. And as dancers, we're often just told what to do. You get a piece of choreography and then you imitate it. So there's not much chance for us to develop that ability to speak up when we need to. And I do a lot of women's work as well through my mindfulness company, and I work with them a lot through certain traumas. So this thread of teaching young women how to not just speak up, but also find a sense of community and safety within each other is really a deep passion of mine. So when I thought about making this film, it was like, okay, how do we visually depict that? Through what tone and what kind of story? And to me, Move In is not necessarily about the pain and the trauma, but it's more about the healing and the community that we find as a result of it, or what going through something painful can actually inspire as a result.
Yeah, absolutely. And goodness me, it's so hard because you're as a dancer, everything is about your physicality, your movement, your dynamic, and everything else. And so it's sometimes also hard when you've got these new people coming through or coming in, and there's just so many levels of just there's so much levels and competition and everything that comes with that as well. And what I loved is that there was this kind of realness that you added on top where you're like, you know what, we're two human beings above everything else here, and I want to help and I want to have that, in this particular case, this sisterhood together. It was so beautiful and dynamic. I loved your actors. How do you go about bringing these actors together? Because obviously they, had to dance well as obviously deliver it as well.
Yeah, I actually found them at the studio.
You did?
Yeah. So
that's so cool.
Yeah, I asked my dance teacher to kind of send me, a few ideas based on what the character breakdowns were and what I was looking for. And then I ran auditions, but I worked a lot with them. I mean, they're all performers in their own right as it is because they're dancers, right? They know what it's like to be on a stage. But that was kind of the challenge, was getting them to now verbalize and understand how to perform, but in a different way. Because dance is a performing art, of course, course, but it's often very big because you're making massive shapes with your body. But acting, you have to really tune into those subtleties and nuances, especially in like a very tight, you're not doing anything but maybe with just one tiny movement of your eyebrow. And so the thing about dancers is that they're so trainable and that they know how to take feedback and they really understand their bodies, right? So that made it really easy to work with the actors. The other thing that was easy is that they're used to rehearsal and just prepping constantly. The biggest challenge for me, and I think this comes just as a responsibility we have as filmmakers, is the content of the film and working with girls that were under 18, and the film deals with a bit of this like sexual toxicity that happens in many industries, but especially in the dance world and the arts world, where young girls are taken advantage of. And for some of these teen girls I was working with, they'd never even experienced anything sexual. So it's having to talk to them about that. And I actually brought some of my friends in who have experienced that in the dance industry to chat with them and to share their stories so they understand the mindset and where that all comes from. So when dealing with more sensitive topics through film, it's really important for me that we're not exploitative and that we're doing it in a very responsible way. And that's especially to the actors involved who have to psychologically go into that place.
Yeah, so many important points there that I think needs to be recognized both from a filmmaker perspective, but also just understanding what one goes through, particularly, these young girls that are just growing up as well, on top of everything else.
Well, and that's I think the thing that me and the actors really spoke a lot about is how comfortable we are in our bodies as dancers. But then when you get that comfort taken away because someone's taking advantage of your body, that kind of like conflict you have now, because my body is this thing that allows me to express my passion and dance. That's why the whole film starts with that big dance solo of hers. But then in every other area of her life, she feels uncomfortable in her body. It's why she looks in the mirror and she's not happy with how she looks, even though she's gorgeous and she's so thin or whatever it is. And yeah, so it was that I wanted to depict as well, that unfortunate conflict that ends up happening with your body and not feeling safe in it when something like that happens.
100%. Now again, this obviously, it's so special when you're going back to where you began, in your dance studio and filming there. And what was, what now coming back after all these years as a director, articulating a story that not only is something maybe, resonates with you and what you've experienced, but also a very, very important message to put out there to, the young girls and sisterhood of the future as well in the dance community. How was that experience for you? Like there must have been a lot of things spinning around of just memories and how was that this time now taking on not as a dancer but as a director?
Yeah, so much came up for me. And I think what I realized, and what I have realized in my directing career, is that I'm always a dancer.
Yes.
Even though I'm not dancing professionally anymore, who I am is, there's dance always in me. And the way I direct, there's a dance in that. There's a dance in filmmaking, right? Just the way everybody is in, they're in their positions, and there's a rhythm that you have to get into. I mean, even dance, it's a moving image, right?
Yes.
Like I grew up mimicking images with my body, and now I've just transferred into a different medium with film.
Exactly, yeah.
So strangely, it felt very at home, and it felt very natural to be in this position. Because the thing that I really did miss when I was in the dance industry, or I guess the thing that made me transition into filmmaking, was wanting to have more of a voice. Was loving being in the arts and telling stories, but wanting to make more of an impact, right? And wanting to just reach more people and also share those stories that I really cared about, and also tell stories of people that look like me. All of that became so much more important than just being on a stage, which is amazing and very fulfilling up to a certain point. But for me, I'd done all the things that I wanted to do. So when I brought this project home, it felt like, wow, this is really now the next chapter of my life, which totally makes sense. But I absolutely know that everything I experienced in dance was supposed to happen for me to step into filmmaking afterwards. Like all my experience on big sets, working with, big artists, all of that's really fueled my passion for working with other artists. And also being a dancer, like we've said, is tough in the industry. So I'm very protective of my performers, which I know makes me a good director, because I really nurture my actors and protect them so that they can not only do an amazing job of their performances, but feel like they've left their heart on the floor, like feel like they've really come to the table learning something and gaining something from the project as well.
It's so nice to feel that element of safety, from the leadership of as a director. It really is, and also as well, I think it is really important to showcase just this dynamic of you know, coming of age group, you know, doing their absolute best to just get on with their amazing skill sets and their talents, and just the other dynamics that come into it to play that are really important to either be educated by or observed by. Now, of course, over the years, you've probably worked with the most amazing choreographers, including yourself. What was, when you knew you wanted to choreograph this within the film, like, what was that process like for you? Because I always find it fascinating when you've got these beautiful dance elements and movements in a film. How was that experience for you?
Yeah, so I actually hired one of my really close friends, Amy Gardner, to choreograph with me. We actually did So You Think You Can Dance Canada back in like 2009.
Stop. Oh
yeah.
my goodness.
So the whole film was like a coming home to like bringing in people that I've known for over a decade, and working with her was incredible. Of course, a lot of the choreography was collaborative since I have such a dance background. And it was a collaboration with the dancers as well, because they're so refined in their movements and they also know their bodies best. So it was really, you know, kind of all of us coming together and finding the movement that felt right for the character and for the film. But I find choreography is so similar to writing, you know? Like when you're choreographing a movement, you're trying to find, okay, what are the moments where we really push and add a lot of energy, and then where do we pull back? How do we transition from this to this? Is it a static movement? Are we really going? And those are kind of the same thoughts that you have, just using different terminology when you're writing a script. And so I feel like a lot of my writing has come from that choreography background, from being able to viscerally feel in your body how you want to communicate something and how something should emotionally feel.
Yeah, I love that you use the analogy of like, you know, you're directing, pretty much, you're just directing another moving image masterpiece, aren't you, really?
It took
like,
me a long time to be able to articulate this.
That's brilliant,
now,
though.
Like, now that I've been in the industry for some time, I'm like, oh yeah, like this is actually like dance. Like I see where there are these parallels. And I mean, if we're going like really big scale, that's where I think any of your skills are transferable, whether it's dance and film. And I think what happens as humans is we box ourselves into these labels, and we forget, like, wait, there's so many other things that we can pursue, and a lot of different, if you have a passion in one thing and you are successful at it, those skills you can transfer pretty much anywhere. But it's just opening up your mind enough to believe that.
100%. You know, you did mention about just, you know, importance of just, and again, you know this from being in this industry, you know, all facets of film, TV, dance, etc. industries. Just the importance of having, you know, that kind of recognition of like someone being able to watch your film being like, oh my God, I can relate to that person, or that person looks like me or feels like me, and the importance of that and what that was. And I'm just curious for you personally, like going into your next project, your next films, like what's important to you as a filmmaker? Like what do you want people to feel and see from your films?
Exactly that. You know, I grew up as a first generation Chinese Canadian, and back when I grew up, it was weird to be different. I think it's changing now, but you know, I didn't want to be different. I wanted to be, I didn't want to be Asian. I didn't want to be a person of color. And so for me, it's really important, and I'm really passionate about telling stories of people who look like me and our experiences. And, you know, Move In, the short, the protagonist, she's half Chinese, half black. And I'm a new mother. I have a 6-month-old baby who's a halfie as well. You know, he's half Chinese. And so I think that part of identity is really important through storytelling, so people feel that relatability, or that feeling of, oh, I'm not the only one out there that might feel this way. I mean, movies always did that for me when I was younger. You know, I could see someone going through something and relate a part of my life to it, and then feel a sense of understanding or even empathy. And I think that's why we all watch movies, because there's a part of us that connects to whatever a character is going through, or, you know, a difficulty they're experiencing. Like we can relate to that, and that makes us feel seen. And so I want my movies to make people feel seen and make people feel at home and make people feel just more connected to our world. Or I think sometimes it's that feeling too where you watch a movie and you're like, oh, life isn't as bad as I think it is. You know, like if I can watch a movie and it can open up my heart just even slightly, things aren't as bad as I might think.
I love that. I really do. And I'm so glad that you're a filmmaker and doing this. And what is next for you? What's going on?
Yeah, lots has been going on. I own a production company called Decorum with my producing partner, Frankie Rubio, another first-gen Asian American. So we're 2 Asian American women leading our production company and really passionate about amplifying these underrepresented voices. And then so we're developing my first feature together, which is called This Way to Home. It's a road trip dramedy between a Chinese Canadian Canadian father and daughter. They're traveling from Toronto to Los Angeles to catch a solar eclipse, but the daughter has a secret plan, which is to find her mother at a mental health facility and then bring her back home. So it's a story about really discovering what home even is, and also the often interesting dynamics between a immigrant parent and their first generation child. The father character is very much so my dad. It's entirely based on him. There are some scenes in the film.
Does he know?
Oh, he does. He's read the script. There's many just little jokes in there that are all from my dad. And Ken Jeong is actually attached to play the role of my father. So yeah, we're busy just getting funding and hopefully shooting that in Canada next year. So yeah, we'll see how it all pans out.
That is fantastic. Well, listen, thank you so much for bringing it moving. We are ready for your first feature, and how exciting it is for your production company to sort of launch it with this. I was listening to the film and I was like, I'm already there in the film. Like, I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, so the way I pitch it, it's like Little Miss Sunshine meets Lady Bird, but with Asian characters.
Yeah.
I'm like, who wouldn't want to see that? Like,
yeah, no,
we need
exactly.
more Asian faces in the dramedy space.
Yes, come on. And just, just thank you for bringing your vision and your, articulating what you did for us. I'm looking forward to seeing much more of your work. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mel, everybody. Appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.